Hello everyone. Merry Christmas to you all and Feliz Navidad, Crăciun Fericit. We know a couple of languages here. Anyway, my name is Dudley Brown and I have the pleasure and the opportunity of being the director of the International Training Institute, and we just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. We are very thankful for what God has done this past year. But Steve and I'll let him introduce himself. We wanted just to get together and share a little bit about what God has done this past year through the work of the International Training Institute.
I agree, and Merry Christmas greetings to each of you. We thank you so much for your interest and your participation in this work of Network Beyond and the International Training Institute. It's been a great year, and it'd be fun I wish we had a cup of coffee with each of you that are viewing this video, but we'll make this video sufficient.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? A cup of coffee, but it's a chilly morning today.
Yeah. You know, we were thinking about this year, and the discussion was, it's kind of like the story that Jesus told about the farmer who went out to plant seed.
Right, exactly.
And we know about farming, and some of our viewers actually are involved in farming, which is kind of great story. But farming is hard work, you know, and farmers each year go out with this anticipation of seeing a harvest, and there's frustrations along the way, and there's good days and bad days and all those kind of things, but it's all worth it. And for the sake of the harvest, and Jesus talked about this, or farmers scattered the seed, and some produced 30 and 60 and 100 times.
100-fold, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's maybe a good way to talk about our year in the context of this idea that we have seen God multiply hope in the lives of people.
That's absolutely right, Steve.
Yeah.
It's been a great joy to see how the work has continued to grow. It's multiplied so much that there's no way you and I can do it. It's really based upon the work of many of the people that we've been able to be involved with, to train. Some that have taken the training and multiplied the training even further and multiplied it to another generation, to a fourth and to a fifth generation. So it's been really wonderful to see that kind of growth.
It is, and I think we both have seen some of this in the different fields we've visited, and it's been quite an exciting story. I don't know if all our viewers, those watching this video at this point, know that most of our workers and leaders with the International Training Institute are not from the U.S.
No, absolutely they're not.
In fact, many of our countries each have teams of 8, 10, 12 people who are leading the work in their own individual country, and there's a few dozen of those countries
nearly
today.
30 countries worth, so 30 times 8 for each, so there's nearly 250 national workers scattered around, essentially around the world, that are multiplying this work of the International Training Institute.
And that's what excites me. In fact, you were sharing a story.
Yes.
We were both in South America around the same time in different countries, but you were sharing this story about the guys in Ecuador, the leadership team.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe we could share that, because I think it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I was recently in Ecuador, and we had about 50 people come for the training, and divided among the 50, or added to the 50, were 4 or 5 other leaders of Ecuador. Plus we had our 2 international leaders who came from Peru. But then one day, the rest of the Ecuador leadership showed up, and there were 11 of them, and it was just so fun sitting around a table for lunch and then after lunch, and these 11 people plus the 2 from Peru, and just strategizing and planning and considering how to multiply this work in Ecuador and into other countries of South America. So, I mean, they own this work. I was just one of these little mice in the corner listening to what they were talking about, and I was just thrilled to see it happen. They're doing a great job. So that was 11 Ecuadorians and 2 Peruvians and 1 North American, 1 gringo sitting there listening, and it was just really wonderful.
You know, when you were doing that, I was in Paraguay.
Yes.
First time in that country for me, and I was asked to speak after the ITI training. And it was the strangest feeling, because I was looking out at this group of about 50 to 60 people. And they had come for kind of a follow-up growth conference after the ITI, and they'd come from 7 different countries. And they were all leaders working with us. And I looked at the crowd and I thought, I only knew about 3 people in this crowd. And I thought, this is great, because these were, we were told afterwards, 5th and 6th generation of our leadership that have been multiplying down the road, and they're leading countries and they're leading works, and just very exciting.
And that work, it's not just in the urban centers. It's the work that's going up into the mountains, into the Andean highlands with the indigenous people groups, and just helping them understand the reality of experiencing Christ in their lives, and making disciples, and training and growing disciples of Christ. And it's really, that's what's exciting to see, because it's not just an urban-centered thing. It's rural, it's in the mountains, and we love the mountains, don't we, Steve?
We love the mountains.
We live here in Colorado. We love the mountains, so.
Right. Some of our work has been challenging and very difficult, and you may know that we have work in some very politically sensitive parts of the world. As we're speaking here today, within the last couple of days, the country of Syria has fallen, the government has fallen, and there's a bit of anxiety in the country, what's going to happen to us, and so far so good, everyone's well, and we're glad about that, but they're carrying on work.
Everyone's well. To clarify, we have people that are doing great ministry with the ITI, even in a place like Syria. So.
Yes, Syria and Lebanon. Our Burmese people, we've had to even kind of halt that a little bit, because they are scattered throughout the country because of the persecution, and that's difficult, the stories of that, because these are dear people who love Jesus, and yet God's at work, and it's been wonderful.
And you mentioned like in Syria, but then I think of some of the refugees from Afghanistan and Iran and Tajikistan who have gone to Europe, and this fall I had this wonderful opportunity to be in Europe, in France, and then in Austria, and to see this kind of discipleship training among these Farsi-speaking refugees, and that's really great. I have to tell you a short story. When I went to Lyon, France, and in Lyon, France, we had this training with about 12 Farsi-speaking refugees. And one morning, I went up this mountain that overlooks the city of Lyon. It looks out over the river, and as I went up there, I was thinking about Bishop Irenaeus of Lyon. And Irenaeus is one of these like church fathers from the 2nd century who goes to Lyon from what's present-day Turkey. And as I was thinking about Irenaeus, he was discipled by a man named Polycarp, who was martyred for his faith in the very beginning of the 2nd century. But Polycarp was a disciple of John the Apostle, who was traveling with Jesus and one of the 12 disciples of Jesus. And then as I was thinking of John to Polycarp to Irenaeus, I went, wow, ... through the generations all the way to me, and then to these 12. And it's just this picture again of this multiplying growth, 100-fold, right? And it's all based on a work of discipleship and multiplication. And one of our key verses in the International Training Institute comes from 2 Timothy 2:2, and we like constantly talk about this verse when Paul is writing to Timothy, the things you have learned from me in the presence of many witnesses, these things entrust to faithful people who will be able to teach others also. And we always ask the question, how many generations are in this verse? And there are clearly 4 generations: Paul, Timothy, the faithful people who will teach others also. And so then I was thinking of John. He did his job with Polycarp. Polycarp did his job with Irenaeus and many, many others. And then it's continued all the way down to 2024 when we're making this video, and I was in Lyon where Irenaeus had been. And one of the things we've been able to see in the ITI is how it has reached even a younger generation of people. So we began the ITI in 2010 in Peru and Uganda. And there are some people that were part of the first ITIs who have gone on, had their families, and some of their kids have now grown up in the faith and came to what we called a passing the baton ITI for young people, like 20s and early 30s. And they came for that training. And to see that next generation, that biological next generation, picking up the baton and growing in their faith and wanting to encourage others in their faith, that's great. In Ecuador in March, there will be a Passing the Baton conference among all of the Ecuadorian youth that are involved with this ITI. And then in August, in Colombia, there will be an international Passing the Baton conference for all of these young people that are somehow affected by the ITI.
You know what I like about this story is that we didn't orchestrate this.
No, it wasn't, yeah.
And this is something that local believers in these countries picked up on and decided this is something we need to do.
Right.
And so we show up and enjoy the fruit of that and hear the stories, and that's good.
Yeah, it is great to see younger people embrace the faith and want to grow in their faith. And they really capture this vision of multiplying their faith. It's back to the farmer, you know, the sower and the seeds and the seed that grows and bears fruit 30, 60, and 100-fold. Yeah.
And that's where we want to say a thank you to all those who have been participating. I mean, your gifts and your prayers make a big difference, and it's just wonderful and such an encouragement. And you know, just maybe we should talk about this too, just even the finances, because it's an interesting story. I've never experienced anything like this. Right. And we always kind of live on a little bit of an edge financially in terms of there's so many opportunities, and our local pastors around the world and leaders, they see it firsthand because they're hearing the request. And I think as this week, in fact, we have people in Nigeria, which is a newer country for us.
It's a newer country, and the Nigerian church is actually paying for some of the all of the food and the accommodations for the ITI. So that's great. They're picking up some of that bill, and you know, our giving has gone up this past year, but the ministry has like skyrocketed. So trying to keep that bridged is nearly impossible without the grace of God, but somehow He makes it stretch and go further.
He's good at that, isn't he?
Yes, He is. I think of some fish and some bread that were distributed to 5,000. So
yeah, but we just want to thank you for your participation, and your gifts do multiply, and we're seeing some of that 30 and 60 and 100 times, and the fruit has just been amazing, and the numbers of people involved and the excitement that comes. Yeah. I mean, I had people when I was in Paraguay, just for example, from Brazil who came, and from Argentina who came, and the Brazilians were just trying to nail down a date when I could get there.
Isn't that great?
You know, and it's wonderful because it's something we all want to do, and God, as He provides, one day.
We'll do it, yes. So thank you very much for your contribution and your prayers for the International Training Institute. God is doing a great work through your gifts, and we are very appreciative. And be sure that those in Latin America that are part of our work, and Africa and Europe, they're grateful for your contribution to enable this work to grow.
Yes.
Merry Christmas to you all.
God bless you, and thank you again.